President Biden has introduced new measures to fight off a winter surge of coronavirus. Now, his plan does not include any lockdowns or domestic travel restrictions. Many Republicans seem to believe any effort to fight the virus seems to be potentially going too far. Real America is done with COVID-19, wrote Congressman Jim Jordan. The only people who don't understand that are Fauci and Biden. Last week, a group of conservative senators threatened to shut down the government over the president's vaccine mandate. Afterwards, Senator Mike Lee issued a stark warning about the politics to come.
It's difficult to understand why anyone would want to use the overpowering force of the federal government to tell someone that if they don't cooperate with the ordained presidential medical orthodoxy, they will be fired. It's going to come back up again. It'll come back up in any future vote-a-rama. It's going to come back again every time we get the opportunity.
Senator Lee talking about his amendment there. Joining me now, Republican strategist Alice Stewart and Democratic strategist Maria Cardona. They are co-hosts of the Hot Mics from the Left to Right podcast. Alice, here's the thing that I've been trying to figure out right now is, all right, I can understand from an ideological perspective where Republicans might be coming from on vaccine mandates on businesses, right? That would track. But the idea of COVID doesn't exist, we need to move on, given the fact that we're 108,000 cases a day at this point in time, is it a political strategy that you think would be effective for those Republicans that say that?
No, because of the number you just said, 100,000 new cases daily. It's still continuing to surge. And the most important thing we can do as we do this mass media campaign on COVID is to remind people this is a health issue. This is not a political issue. COVID is nonpartisan, masks are apolitical, vaccines are nonpartisan, and travel mandates are not discriminatory. And the most important thing we can do moving forward is to follow the science, especially with this new variant, and take the politics out of it. Yes, there are areas where we need to pull back on the mask mandates. We need to pull back on school closures and business closures. But we need to make sure that we follow the science of this and take the politics out, because that's where we're getting into trouble, and that's where these numbers continue to grow.
Right. And Maria, one of the, I think, developments that have been intrigued by, and intrigued might be a euphemism to some degree, over the course of the last couple of weeks, is Republicans attacking President Biden for not being able to control the pandemic, for the number of deaths in 2021. As they oppose, some of them oppose vaccines, they oppose a lot of the measures that I think scientists or medical health experts believe would actually help control the pandemic. Does that put Democrats in a tough spot here? Is the Republican message swamping Democrats to some degree?
I don't think so, because I think one of the reasons why their gambit to try to shut down the government over all of these COVID politics is because people within their own party were very concerned about this new variant, and Republicans trying to play politics in the face of this onslaught of this new variant, people getting very concerned about this. And the messages, you know, it's hard when you're trying to message over something that is so new. And yes, that is something that Republicans will always try to take advantage of. They've been trying to take advantage of it from the very beginning. But CNN did this great analysis of information that came out from Johns Hopkins University, and essentially it said that in red states, the death rate after the vaccines were readily available is 50% higher in states that voted for Trump than in other states. And I think Americans are feeling that. There will always be people who are anti-mandate, anti-vax, anti-masks, but the majority of Americans understand the danger of this new variant, the danger that still exists on COVID. That's why you're seeing so many boosters happening. You mentioned this earlier in one of your segments. Over 2 million people got vaccinated in the last couple of days. If the Republican message was working, you wouldn't see that kind of movement.
But at the same time, Maria, you have to remember that President Biden campaigned on putting an end to COVID. And Democrats are so quick to say, don't blame it on the president. He campaigned on this issue saying he was going to get a handle on this, and he hasn't. And you can shrug your shoulders and not take responsibility for it. But when you're promising the American people this is what you're going to do as president, and almost a year in, we're at this point, I think the criticism is warranted.
But see, I don't think that'll stick either, because there has been great numbers in terms of vaccination, and I think that is because of what President Biden has done, and he has not backed down from moving forward and really trying to not just stop COVID, but stop these variants, and being very clear that the only way to do that is for more people to get vaccinated.
And I think that's why you've seen the president take such a forceful position this past week in terms of the way to start, trying to kind of recapture the success that they had in the initial rollout.
Right.
I want to switch, because you're our resident Georgian on the panel. I'm not going to mention Georgia football because I'm a Buckeye, so I have no grounds here. Major development for Republicans in Georgia, where we had today, there are new reports that former Senator David Perdue plans to run for governor. That is not an open seat. That is a seat with Brian Kemp. If he enters, he'll have to win the primary against the current governor, Brian Kemp, who I think everybody knows has been at war with the former president because he followed the law. Walk me through this dynamic right now and what it means for a very serious governor's race in the general.
In the general election, it's going to be very tough. In the primary, that's where things are going to get really contentious. When you have what I see as a popular governor, Kemp has been popular across the state. He has done well with regard to COVID, and his only downfall, if Republicans want to say that, is that he stood up to Donald Trump. And I will say this, the fact that he stood by the election results in Georgia and was steadfast that this election in Georgia was fair and was accurate, I commend him for that. And the fact that he's taken the lead on COVID is important. But David Perdue, I was on the ground in GOTV efforts 1 year ago, helping him and Loeffler to get out the votes. Their main downfall was being too close to Trump, being dismissive of the election results, and the tone and tenor that his campaign was leading. If that's what he wants to do moving forward, this is an exercise in futility in terms of trying to be governor of Georgia.
But it is going to be a war, and if you're a Democrat right now, not just in Georgia, but writ large, when you're looking at the political map, you're looking at the current dynamics, the president's approval rating, you're very worried about a first-time midterm election for a new president, and you're seeing Republicans potentially cannibalize their own. You're happy, I presume, yes?
Welcome. We welcome that. But I think it does give Democrats an opportunity to continue to talk about this dangerous strain that is happening in the Republican Party all over in all states. And you're seeing it up on the Hill almost every day. People that embrace the big lie. Candidates who want to do nothing but kneel at the altar of Trump. Him supporting those candidates. And that, I think, results in an opportunity for the Democrats to say, look how dangerous so many in the Republican Party are, and that they are still looking at Donald Trump, who tried to steal the 2020 election, as their leader. And you have so many candidates who are wanting to form themselves in the image of Trump. And then, of course, in Georgia, Stacey Abrams is going to be a huge, huge boost for Democrats really focused on making sure that all of our base comes out. We did it twice last year in the 2 Senate races. I think that this also gives a lot of ammunition for Democrats to be excited about this race.
Very different dynamics this time around.
And the case study for anybody running for a governor in any state is like the Virginia model with regard to Glenn Youngkin, embracing the policies of the Republican Party, but separating yourself at arm's length from Trump and his tone and tenor. That's the recipe for success.
And I don't know how you do that in a inter-party primary at this point in time. All right, a lot to watch in the months ahead, and I know these two individuals will be doing just that. Alice Stewart, Maria Cardona, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Phil.